Joanne, thank you for taking the first session and taking the lead for us. So let's welcome Joanne.
Okay, hi everyone. So I'm Joanne, and this is our first journal club section this semester. And I'm going to share, sorry, I'm going to share this article about analysis of the first 10 years of FDA's Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher. And this article is from OrphanNet Journal of Rare Diseases and is published this year. I chose this article because of those authors, and Dr. Mees, Dr. Miller, and those of the others are the members of FDA's Office of Orphan Product Development. So they are all FDA's experts, and I believe that this would be a good article to understand how FDA interpret their internal information and to understand how FDA analyze their analyze the outcome of their own published guidance. So we'll start from the background. So this article is about the rare pediatric drug development. And we all know that there is an unmet medical need in pediatric drug development. So financial incentive is always needed. We now have orphan drug pathway for the pharmaceutical industry, but orphan drug pathway is specific for rare disease rather than rare pediatric disease. So pediatric population is a special population among all the patients. So in 2002, they published this Pediatric Research Equity Act, PREA, and in 2003, they published Best Pharmaceuticals for Children Act, BPCA. So these two acts serve as the initial encouragement for biopharmaceutical industry to increase their pediatric research and require them to include safety and efficacy data for those medicines in children. And later in 2012, FDA just published this draft guidance on Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher Program. I'll just call them RPD PRV program in the later slides. So it's just like an experimental program for about 10 years from 2013. And this is how it works. So the sponsor or the company should submit their RPD, Rare Pediatric Disease Designation request to the FDA. And this request should be submitted at the same time just as they submitted their orphan drug designation and fast track designation request for the same proposed drugs. And after FDA your RPD request, then FDA will approve or deny your request. And if FDA approved your request, then FDA will start to review the RPD criteria and decide whether or not your product would be RPD designated product. So there are two steps. First, you submit a request with your orphan drug designation and fast track designation, and then wait for FDA's response. And what is the RPD criteria? So the RPD designation criteria include few components. This designation program is only for drug or biologics for rare pediatric disease only, which means that medical devices or diagnostic tools are not considered as designated products in this program. But FDA strongly encourages companies to submit their RPD designation request before the final market application, NDA or BLA, because you are proposing a product for rare disease, so the information is quite limited. So FDA wants to get involved in your product development in the earlier stage, and FDA will collect more information, will have a chance to collect more information of your product. So These are the three major components of RPT designation criteria. So first, as a sponsor, you need to provide the FDA with your proposed mechanism of action. And then you have to demonstrate that your product is for a life-threatening situation that primarily affect only individuals aged from 0 to 18 years old. And then you have to prove that the total prevalence of your proposing indication affects only fewer than 200,000 people, which is the definition of rare disease in United States. And this is the second part of the RPT PRV program. PRV stands for Priority Review Voucher. So Priority Review Voucher is actually previously existed, and it's a financial incentives developed from FDA to for the drug or biologic development in some cases. Like previously, we had tropical disease PRV, and now we had RPD, rare pediatric disease PRV in this program. So the benefit of PRV is once a sponsor submitted their NDA application or BLA application, if FDA give those companies with a PRV qualification, then it can be redeemed to a priority review, which means that it only needs 6 months. The regulatory review goal of your NDA or BLA would be 6 months rather than a 10-month standard review time. Or once your NDA or BLA are approved by the FDA, you can transfer or sell your PRV qualification to a third party or a larger company. So that is why it's a financial incentive to the small size company which are developing these pediatric specific products, because it can generate revenue just right after your market approval. So actually, this is a benefit to encourage those small size or middle sized company to invest in the development of a rare pediatric disease product. And this is their research method. So they first analyze FDA internal information of all the RPT designations from 2013, the program initiation, to 2022. So this is a 10-year retrospective analysis. And this is the first time that these data is available to the public, because it's previously not disclosed to all the researchers in the academic. So this is kind of research that only FDA can do this. Anyway, they just analyze all the information, including product type and their regulatory status of all of the RPT designations within these 10 years. And if your product is a diagnostics drug, then in most of the cases, then it will not considered as RPT designated product. And then they also analyze the designation review clock to see if they were subject to the 6-day review deadline in the fast track situation. And then for all the analysis, they converted disease phrases to simplified terms. And then they also created identification for neonatology conditions, because neonates are special populations, even in pediatric population. So they categorize those disorders in up to 44 weeks PMA as neonatology conditions. And they provide definition for drugs and biologics. So in some cases, if your drug is a antisense oligonucleotide, then it will be a drug. It will be classified as a drug. But if you're vaccine, monoclonal antibodies, cell therapies, or gene therapies, then they are biologics. And then let's move on to the results. So in the past 10 years, 2013 to 2022, we had about 569 RPD designated products. Generally, the frequency over the years is relatively consistent, except 2020. So we observed a peak happened in 2020, about 241 accounted for 42% of all the RPD designations in this year. And the reason is this year is the year that FDA announced that RPD-PRV program is going to be a sunset program, which means that FDA would gradually terminate this program since 2020 because this is a 10-year program. So it should be ended in 2024. And in 2020, FDA just announced that they will gradually terminate this RPD-PRV program. And after 2024, if there was no renew or the continuing discussion of this program, then there will be no new RPD designated products anymore. So that is why most of the companies just submitted their RPD designations this year to catch up the final period of the RPD-PRV program. And then is the result of the review clock. So about 53.6% of the RPD designations were reviewed within 60 days, and another 46% were reviewed over 60 days. And this is the overview of the product types. So among 569 designated products, about 95% of them are treatment, pediatric treatment, and only 19 of them are diagnostics, and only 12 of them are prophylactic products. I know I just said that diagnostic tools are not considered as RPD designated products, but actually if your diagnostic agent is the primary body of your further NDA or BLA, rather than a part of your treatment, then your diagnostic agent would be considered as a RPD designated product in these cases. And this is the table 1. So they categorized RPD designations by therapeutic area. The top 5 most associated therapeutic area is neurology, metabolism, oncology, hematology, and immunology. And if we look at the number of diseases associated with at least one RPD designation within a therapeutic area, metabolism would be the top one, which means that 70 metabolism-related diseases are associated with at least one RPD designation. But if we look at the number of RPD designations per disease within therapeutic area, then oncology would be the top one, which means that one cancer or one type of tumor is associated with an average of 4.8 RPD designations. So the investment and the development in one specific type of cancer or tumor is remarkable in these cases. And then we'll have table 2. So this is about the number of diseases and the number of RPD designations. So we observed 245 diseases that targeted by all RPD designations, and 152 diseases only associated with only one RPD designation, which means that there is no major focus of the RPD designations. About 62% of diseases have only one RPD designation for them. But we still have 26 diseases that are associated with 5 or even more RPD designations here. So if we look into the details of these 26 diseases, the most designated diseases are Duchenne muscular dystrophy. This disease has 30 RPD designation for it. It's a neurology disease. And then neuroblastoma is a neurological tumor. And then sickle cell is a cancer related with blood. And then is DIPG, diffuse intrinsic protein glioma. So it's a fast-growing brain tumor, happens in children. And then is osteosarcoma. It's a solid tumor, also happens in children and adolescents. This is the introduction of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. This is how it looks like. It will cause abnormality in muscle shape and bones. So this is how it looks like. And then is osteosarcoma. It's a solid tumor, so you can see it from outside of the body, and it has to be removed by surgery. Because it's a rare disease, we are talking about rare pediatric disease. So it's actually a rare disease, but it's actually common in children cancer. So this is how it looks like. And then it's the result for neonatology products. We observed 33 products accounted for 6% of all the designations among 569 products. But those 33 products only focus on 4 major neonatal conditions here. The first one is neonatal seizure. So it's a neurological problem, and it will cause further brain damage or further difficulties in recognition in the future. And then it's BPD, bronchopulmonary dysplasia, is a respiratory disease that causes difficulty in the delivery of oxygen in baby's lungs. And then is NEC, necrotizing enterocolitis. It's a life-threatening GI problem with perforation and bleeding in baby's GI system. And then is retinopathy of prematurity, is an eye disease with blood vessels to grow abnormally in the retina and then cause vision loss or blindness in the future. So these are the 4 major neonatal diseases target among all the neonate specific designated products. And then is the analysis of product type. So among 569 products, about 56% of them are drug products and 44% of them are biologics. And under drug products, antisense oligonucleotide ASO products account for 7%. And under biologics, gene therapy account for even 64% of all the biologics, which is a major part of the biologic designated products. And then is the evidence level. So among all the designated products, only 54% of them only submitted with preclinical data, and only 38% of them are submitted with clinical data. And among those products with clinical data, 51% of clinical evidence were applicant-derived clinical data, which means that the sponsors and the companies really conducted clinical trial to support their submission. And 29% of clinical evidence are just cited clinical trials, which means that the sponsors only cited other trials results to support their submissions. And about 20% of clinical evidence are just cited case studies. So there were even no clinical trials, there were just case study. And then is the overview of priority review vouchers. Although we had about over 500 designations, but we only have 38 approved PRV in the end. Which means that only 38 products were approved in the end of 2022 and granted with PRV. And among these 38 products, neurologic products, there were 13 neurologic products and 12 metabolism-related products, and these accounted for 2/3 of all the PRV approved in the past 10 years. And then let's move on to the discussion. So RPD PRV is a financial incentive to encourage industry. to increase their pediatric specific research or product development. Actually, because PRV could be transferred or sell to another larger company, so it generates revenue very quickly. And actually, in the reported purchase price, the PRV price, average PRV price is $100 million. So the PRV qualification really worth a lot. So it's an effective financial incentive to encourage small-sized company to get involved into this therapeutic area. And then in this retrospective analysis, we observed 569 RPD designations, and they target 245 unique rare pediatric diseases. But all the designations, almost half of designations were happened in 2020, if you remember the spikes in 2020, because of the sunset period of this program. But speaking of the sunset period of the program, actually this PRV program, RPD PRV program, must be renewed periodically by Congress, which means that it's not a permanent program, and it has to be reauthorized by Congress after a few years. If the Congress did not reauthorize this program, then after September 2024, then there will be no new designated RPD products or PRV anymore. And in this article, FDA did not provide an explanation for the reason why this program only lasts about 10 years. But my understanding is in the beginning of this program design, the Congress only agreed FDA to operate this program for the future 10 years and to see what's the outcome and and reauthorize it after 10 years or even more years later to give FDA basis to modify the program framework and to see what's the impact in the industry and the financial. So that's my understanding about this periodical renewing process. And then we observe a wide range of diseases. So we observed 245 unique diseases targeted by all the designations. So there is no single disease that was the major focus of most of the development. Even the most designated disease, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, it has 30 RPD designations, but actually this number only accounted for 5% of total RPD designations. And we also observed a similar trend, just like we observed in adults, in other research about adults. Cancer or oncology is the most often associated therapeutic area. So among these top 5 most designated diseases, three diseases are oncology-related diseases. And this is the result for neonatal population. So we observed that 4 major conditions for all the designated products. And the reason why is these 4 conditions are the most well studied. They are most understood. So most of the product development just focus on these 4 major diseases. And then FDA still elaborate more in the difficulties with development of neonate specific new drugs. So for the clinical design or the preclinical status, there are few appropriate animal models for neonates, and there are always challenges in the clinical trial design because they are obviously vulnerable, and there are high rates of comorbidities here. The physiology of neonate populations is totally different, not just adults, but even a general pediatric population. So these are the barriers that developing a support program to neonates population or neonate patients. And then is gene therapy. Gene therapy products accounted for 64% of all the biologics designated products, and it represents more than a quarter of all designations. And the reason why is almost more than 70% of rare diseases have underlying genetic issue. So it's not surprising that genetic technology will be the major part of all the biologics designations. And then is evidence level. Nearly 40% of all RPD designations were granted based on clinical evidence, which is nice because according to FDA, those products with early clinical data show a further potential in development, and they are relatively stable over time because for FDA, because this means that the clinical trials and product development existed before the program had been initiated. So those companies are well prepared, and just right after the program had been initiated, they can submit their results with clinical evidence. And that is why FDA believes that these products are generally more stable than those new onset products only with preclinical data. And then is the outcomes and limitations of these studies. So I'll just talk about limitations. First is this study may not capture the entire product development pipeline because some of non-profit organizations or academic researchers, they might not aware of this program, so they didn't submit their designation request, so they are not included in this study. And the second limitation would be the subjectiveness. So they classify all the diseases, but the mechanism of some diseases could be complicated. So there are inevitable subjectiveness in the classification process. And then is the general outcomes. So the study contributes a more detailed description of the landscape of product development for RPD diseases. And we had over 500 designations here, but only 38 approved PRV in the first 10 years, only represent 7% of all the designated products. But FDA believe that this approval lag behind RPD designations is totally expectable because, as we know, the development of a new drug always take more than a decade, and most of them are not approved in the end. So this is reasonable to have this approval lag, and maybe for those unapproved designated products, 10 years is not enough. Maybe they need more 10 years or a few years to complete their research or their product development. So that is why this retrospective study is valuable, because it serves as a basis for FDA to make modification of the current RPD PRV framework and to create a continuing support for the relating industries. And we also observe a spikes in designation activity in 2020, just as our first chart in the result. Because this program has to be reauthorized by the Congress. So if the Congress did not renew this program, or if early action is not taken to renew this program in the future, there was still a further uncertainty for all the sponsors because they didn't know when is the new initiation of the RPD program period, and we hope that FDA hopes that there will be new effort in this therapeutic area to support the relating pediatric specific research. And I also found another update this year because the study, the article I presented is completed in 2023, but actually, so it did not include those data or those products after 2023. So actually, there are still more RPD PRVs approved in 2023, and actually we have 53 RPD PRVs awarded for 39 different rare pediatric diseases by April 30 this year. So rather than 38, actually we now have 53, but because of the sunset period of the program, FDA's authority to grant RPD designations is currently set to expire on the end of September this year. And this report is from National Organization of Rare Disorders, NORD. So they released a report including many information for this RPD PRV program. So just like an update to FDA's retrospective analysis. And in this report, we can see the graph here. Most of the rare pediatric designations and PRVs increased during the past 4 years, just right after 2019 or 2020. So they share a same trend over the years. Okay, and these are my references, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Joanne.